And that's the difference between us, Jane. I'm here, not because I have to be, because I want to be. It's the new me. Better get used to it.
John, that's great. A whole new John Belushi. Thanks to a little success and a lot of heroin.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
This week on The Early Years, we're talking about Season 4, Episode 11, with host Cicely Tyson and musical guest Talking Heads. This show originally aired on February 10th, 1979. Brad, did you notice I just said Talking Heads? I didn't put a "the" in front of it.
Yeah, you got it correct this week. I noticed. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
More than we can say for the host this episode.
Oh, poor Cicely Tyson.
I mean, let's say that again. Poor Cicely Tyson.
Right? I think
just blanket statement. Blanket statement for her.
It's indicative of this entire episode because Cicely Tyson is an award-winning actress.
Yes.
With clout, we can say. Yeah. And she was put into this episode, and it was not the best effort from the team, I don't think.
No. And it's a shame because obviously make notes. She's the first Black female host to do the show.
Yes. Which
is impressive. It only took them 3.5 seasons. But You know what? That's not surprising is not the right word, but that doesn't surprise me or shock me. But what is more surprising, do you know when the second Black female host is on the show?
Oh. No, I don't.
It's Oprah Winfrey.
Oh my God, I almost said Oprah.
In 1986.
And I swear, I was about to say it's Oprah, but I thought, no, that's 7 years from now, so it can't
And then, it doesn't happen again until 2003.
What?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Queen Latifah comes and hosts in 2003. So, yeah, I can't do math, but
in the first 28 years, 3 Black female hosts. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah. And it's sad because Cicely Tyson is so talented.
Oh, it's sad. All right.
She is very talented. And it's a shame that she was not given much to work with here.
You know what, though? I was wondering. I mean, this is a bad episode off the bat. So I'm trying to figure out why as I'm watching the show. I'm like, this is not a good episode. There's just not a lot of stuff. How much of that is due to the fact that she is, like you just said, a very talented dramatic actress.
Right.
And I started trying to think, in the history of the entire show, it's very hard, I feel like, when you get a strictly dramatic performer.
Right.
To come in and be successful. Sometimes you get people who have a little bit of a comedic background, or there's a rare unicorn where they're just really good at playing and want to be involved.
Right.
But a lot of times when you get the traditional die-hard dramatic actors, they don't do very well on the show. They stick out unless the show helps them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Your Walter Matthau's.
Yeah, I was trying.
He's comedic. He's a funny. Never mind. That's a bad example.
Was better. Yeah, there's not that many of this. Sissy Spacek's one where
that's a good one.
Dramatic actor.
I think you see in a lot of the hosts during this era, though, they're more of it's a different type of talent, right? You have someone like an Elliot Gould who is a song and dance man, but could also do these, there were just, people seem to be more multi-talented than they were in later years, or they are now.
Yes. And also I'd say, as we would talk about those first couple seasons, the show lent more towards variety and other things. Yeah. So you now the show's all comedy. It's very rare now you're getting something that's not a comedic piece on the show in season 4. So if you're an actor who doesn't have that comedic bone in your body, it's a lot harder to find a path on the show because everything is comedy.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah. So you can't blame her for this episode. I mean, she's trying. No. There's a couple sketches I think she acts phenomenally in. She's obviously into it. By the end of the episode at the good night, she's having a blast. She seems very happy to be there. So I don't know. It's weird.
It is. It is a weird show, and it's kind of in a weird spot in the season too, that you would, I don't know. She follows Michael Palin, who was on 2 weeks earlier.
Mhm.
And I mean, you talk about polar opposites. Cicely Tyson and Michael Palin, I think, are opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to comedic sensibilities.
Mhm. Do you remember in season 3 when Steve Martin hosted with the Blues Brothers?
Sure do.
Yeah, how good was that episode?
Yeah. Should we just replay our 2-part episode from that episode?
I mean, just get ready for it. This episode may require a lot of referencing of older episodes, so I'm just, sketches or what have you. So,
yeah.
You can't find, I was trying to research, didn't find a lot about this episode, but apparently Jim Downey has said he was talking to Lawrence O'Donnell, like MSNBC
Yep.
guy.
Yeah.
This was like years ago. And apparently this, for a long time, held the record for highest rated show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was trying to figure out, is that true or how is that true? And then I put a thing on social media and our good buddy Ian chimed in. And apparently there was a blizzard this weekend. It was a huge storm in the Northeast. So maybe there were just a lot of people home. And as like you said, post Michael Palin episode.
Right.
Maybe that's why.
Well, should we just get into it?
We must, I guess. I'm just going to, hey, rate and review. We're doing God's work here, everybody. So this episode aside, if you like what you hear, please leave a rating, leave a review. It's the least you can do for all this work that we do.
This is God's work. God's really curious what we think of season 4, episode 11, Cicely Tyson. Talking Heads.
Talking Heads.
Well, the cold open starts backstage with Gilda and Jane talking about John's sketch being cut and how afraid everyone is of John when he learns that his sketch will be cut.
Hollywood John, yep.
He then comes in dressed as Chinese Vice Premier Deng, who had just visited the United States.
But left,
yeah. And so Gilda takes off, and it's just Jane and John talking about, she not confronts him, but she mentions how everyone's kind of afraid that he'll be upset that his sketch was cut. And he talks about how he's at peace with everything. And he's espousing his success as to why nothing really matters on the show.
It's the new John Belushi.
It is. He's kind of being a dick, though, right?
Well, at the end, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Unlike you,
right?
I don't have to be here.
Yep.
And something like when this show's over, I have options or whatever. And what are you going to do? Go back to improv, community theater?
Right. Go back to Boston. Yeah.
So he takes some subtle digs at Jane. It was interesting, I thought, to watch John and Jane go at it, even though they don't really go at it, but it's until the very end. So it was interesting they pair them up to do this.
I thought so too, mostly because their relationship at this time is not.
That's what I mean.
Good,
yeah.
and then it all ends with her making a heroin joke.
Yeah, which I did not like for a few reasons.
Yeah,
one, it doesn't feel funny. It's kind of mean. Her line about him on heroin,
right?
It doesn't feel like a joke funny. Like it feels genuinely mean-spirited. And then John, first of all, something about him just seems off in the whole sketch. And maybe because he's trying to play like a toned down version of John. Also, it doesn't help because his eyebrows are like half painted over. So he just looks really weird.
Right. Well,
to play the Chinese
makeup,
guy.
Yeah.
I get it. But then at the end, she makes that comment and John goes to swing at her. And so she ducks out of the way and he nails the locker and falls into the lockers. And that just seemed not condoning that violence, but it was like half-assed John. Like he seemed like he was doing like 50% motions.
Yeah.
And the audience didn't even know what to react. Like he does that swing and lands into the locker. And that's in theory, your big moment of everybody laughing and a ha ha ha.
Right.
And there was nothing.
Oh, but yeah, no, there was
didn't
nothing.
React at all.
That was my note, was not a lot of laughs.
Yeah. And he just kind of turns and gives this weird live from New York. It's Saturday night. And
yeah, it was very strange. It was
odd.
One of the more awkward cold opens we've seen in the 4 seasons. But from there.
Do you remember that cold open when Chevy Chase fell down and yelled live from New York at Saturday night?
That one?
That was a good cold open. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, we go to the monologue and they introduce Cicely Tyson and out comes Garrett and drag. So if you had Garrett and drag by the monologue on your bingo card, you win.
Yeah, they hit that gag quick.
Wow. Yes. And he comes out talking about how he is the token minority window dressing. And he, as the performer, he reads his contract. As the performer agrees, he will play all parts darker than Tony Orlando. And then it took a turn when Cicely comes up. Sorry, I should mention she comes up and confronts him. And
she comes up pretty quick. It's not that long.
Does.
He only gets a line or two out. Yeah.
Right. And she totally calls him out for being an amazing performer. So why does he stoop to this?
Yeah.
His big joke was that he gets to keep the dresses.
Yeah. It's an interesting take on this whole situation. And, you know, remembering too, like it's 1979. So they're not going to call themselves out on it being an issue like people would nowadays and how bad it is. Like looking back, like, so it's interesting trying to watch it in the lens of watching it at the time and not 45 years later. I think it's interesting they do a take on it. Like they bring it up and talk about it and she calls him out on it. And I actually like it. I think they handled it pretty good. I think Garrett's good in the performance with him and her. And they parade it out in the beginning of the show. Like, here it is. Like, we know we've been doing this.
Right.
Let's make a joke about it.
And I like that Cicely Tyson is sincere when she's like, you're an excellent performer. You are good. So why, you know, I just enjoyed that. They were calling out that Garrett actually has talent.
Yeah, I think it plays well. I think people look at it now and you could bitch about it, that it's like, oh, that he's in drag again and blah, blah, blah. But I think for the time that they did it, I think it made sense and I think they did it well.
I agree. No, I think if you're going to bitch about it, I think that argument goes away because they acknowledge it right away. Cicely then throws to commercial and we get Elvis's coat again.
It's back.
So we've seen this earlier this season.
Yeah, back on episode 4. It's Steve Martin episode when we saw this.
Right.
It's still good. Still holds up.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's only been 3 months since we saw it.
Fair. Yeah.
Well, we've also seen this before. We get the Widettes again. We just saw them 2 shows ago.
Yeah.
I guess the time has been longer because it was the Christmas show, but
yeah, the hiatus and they took 2 weeks off the last one, but yeah, only 2 episodes ago.
Yep. And it's the same beats. John plays the son. Jane and Dan play the parents.
It's like all the same beats.
Yes. It's all the same beats, except Garrett and Cicely come over this time. I don't know. They ate all the snacks. That's what it was. Like they just come to eat a bunch of food. And
Cicely tries to use Garrett's ass as an end table to rest her drink. Did they make Jane bigger?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. Did they?
Jane seemed bigger. I don't know. She seemed bigger to me at the end or at the beginning when I saw her.
Interesting.
No, you're right. They don't add much other than there's new neighbors and there's a couple attempts at new jokes where Dan comes home and he looks out the window and he mentions how the kids TP'd their house and why do they pick on us?
Right.
And there's a joke with a large thermometer. Gilda's sick, and so her mom, Jane, wants to take her temperature, so she pulls out this thermometer that looks like a yardstick. And you're obviously getting the joke that even though she's not a baby, that the high school character that Gilda plays is going to get her temperature taken through her ass.
Yep.
And so she doesn't want the yardstick, and so there's a little bit of argument, and then they leave.
And you hear Gilda scream off stage.
Right.
Yeah.
And they somehow found a way to make this sketch even more juvenile than the last time. With the out of the sketch is Jane drops her contact, and they're all going to look on the floor. And so, okay, everyone just bend over where you are and look down. And then as they all bend over, you hear the sound effect of everybody's pants ripping.
Yep.
And so, like, that's the joke, and that's the addition really to this scene from last time. I guess you're right.
Yeah, that is the change.
That's the one joke, because the Elliot Gould one was kind of funny, and he incorporated himself well to the sketch. And I don't know, I enjoyed this. This was just a retread of that, almost that exact sketch. I feel like
it's 1000% just a retread of the same.
I should say one of the things I've read about is that, and how you talk about this show, and this show and what they write, and we'll get into it later. Some other sketches, the subject matter they come up with, but apparently Cicely Tyson hated the majority of material that was given to her, shown to her this week. She was not, and as we see what made it, you can only imagine if there's stuff that she didn't like that didn't make it.
Yeah.
I don't find it that surprising based on who was writing for the show at this point and the kind of things they were writing about and leaning into.
Yep.
I say it now because it's like that is my rationale as to why you just get a bland Wyatt's rehash, because it's painless for her. Okay, here we're going to give you this character that falls into this world, and we're going to add you into it, and it gives you a chance to do something where we're not being offensive or ridiculing anything. And so, who knows the progression of events of like when sketches started getting nixed or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it could have been Thursday night, and they're like, "What do we need? Okay, let's just do a Wyatt's and add them into a Wyatt's."
Right.
There's another sketch later on. I had that same idea. I'm like, they must have figured out like Friday they were really short and came up with another idea. So I think that might be part of it. And again, it's not Cicely Tyson's fault, but the fact that the writers maybe weren't able to get stuff she wanted to do, you're left with what we see tonight.
Yeah. And you see a lot of it, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we do. Do you remember the time Madeline Kahn hosted?
They did the Frankenstein?
When they did the slumber party sketch?
Oh,
yeah. Oh my God. How good was that episode, that sketch?
How great was Madeline Kahn?
How great was Madeline Kahn? Oh, that's good. Sorry. Anyway, back to this episode.
You know what caught my attention with this episode really was that there were a lot of sketches that were of the moment. Like we had the opening where the vice premier had just been in the States, and that was a big deal at the time. Our next sketch also is something that was happening in current events at the time that they made, a sketch out of, which I thought was interesting. It wasn't just in Weekend Update that we saw these things, but we had sketches here.
Sure.
And this is the Shah's final days. Mm-hmm. So we go to the U.S. Embassy in Iran, where Sherry is the secretary.
I almost forgot she still did this character.
It's been a while.
We haven't seen her since season 2. She didn't do Sherry at all last season, and now we're halfway through 4. Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah.
It has been. So we get a lot of people in and out of this U.S. Embassy. John comes in as a CIA person, an agent, who doesn't know what's going on with the Iranian people, and Sherry's the one that explains it to him.
Right.
Cicely Tyson plays a reporter.
But before that, Dan Aykroyd plays his Jason character. We got to see Jason again, which I thought he did well. He's still good at it. It's still a good character. He still performs it well.
And in this context, I thought he was very good with Sherry. And then as he was explaining things, why he was there and what he was doing, it was good.
Right. Because the idea is no one can go in and see the ambassador. So they're all sitting on a couch. And so he's there he's talking a lot, not a lot, but a decent portion of the sketch is him with Cicely Tyson.
Right.
Waiting to go in. He's talking to her about being a writer and idea he has for a story and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is just I just thought this was all over the place, to be honest, this sketch.
Yeah. It's just everyone kind of keeps coming and going, and there's not a lot of connective tissue to people other than that they're all waiting to get in to talk to the ambassador. And
I mean, Sherry really was the crux of this sketch.
Yeah.
And it felt like she even didn't have a lot there. I don't know. It just...
Yeah, she didn't, because it wasn't like a Sherry sketch. The sketch didn't lean on her being Sherry.
Right.
Like, I wonder if the original version of the sketch was just a secretary. I guess not. But her being Sherry does nothing to the sketch. That could have easily been Lorraine playing anybody else as a secretary. But, she played Sherry and played it fine. But yeah, there's just, I don't know. What's Mauricio Smith doing in this scene from the band? He sits on the couch the entire time and does nothing. I'm like, why is he there?
John punches Nils Nichols, who's playing the guard.
Yeah, another one of the production people. I think it's the first time we've seen Nils as an extra.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's taken Neil Levy's spot as as our feature. Let's find him in the sketches now. But yeah.
Anyway.
And it's long. It's a long sketch. Bill eventually comes out and they usher him out. And like, that was kind of a letdown after you've heard him in the background crying for a while. It's like, I don't know.
He's the Shah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, after this, we get...
Can I just say I'm happy that neither one of us brought up Gilda Radner's role in this sketch?
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Keep moving. But luckily, we get Talking Heads next. They come on and sing Take Me to the River.
Or as Cicely Tyson would call them, the Talking Heads.
That's right. That's why I made the mistake last week. I was listening to Cicely Tyson.
Oh, sure.
This is great. This is their first... I guess this is their only performance on SNL as the Talking Heads. David Byrne comes on.
He comes back,
as solo later. But yeah, this is great. This is off their second album, which had just been released, I guess, in 78. And
Yeah, the summer before. So it's been out a little
Yeah.
bit. I think this has been out. This was the only single they put out,
I know.
which I know David Byrne, I mean, I think everybody knows now, like David Byrne was not a fan of this song being their single. He's like, why don't
Right.
we put one of our own songs out?
Yes.
Also, the fact that at this point in time, I think there were 4 versions of this song out in the
I
airwaves.
believe that's right. Yeah.
Foghat had one the year before that I think was still being played. And then I think it was Brian Ferry, and I know Levon Helm has one on his second album. He did a cover of this.
Yeah.
And like the Levon Helm was like right around this same time. But I remember he's talked a lot, David Byrne has, about he didn't want this to be their single, wanted to rely on their own music. But it's the only single they released off the album. It was like a not top 20, I think top 30 hit.
Which stinks because this album actually has one of my favorite Talking Heads songs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The Big Country. It's the last song on the album. And I really love that song. But yeah, I mean, they come on and do Take Me to the River, written by Al Green.
Yeah. It's
I
a
really
great version. I mean,
enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we should say this is another instance now, is I think the 3rd time this season of a band making their US TV debut on the show.
I believe you're right.
We had Devo, Kate Bush, and now the Talking Heads. Because like you said, it's only their second album.
Right.
They were like a very, not small, but they were, niche New York City club kind of, CBGB's band.
Yeah.
And this is the album that really kind of propelled them into mainstream. So it's like SNL's doing a good job this season. Like I say, getting hip new act, or people on the rise. So that's fun to see.
This was their first album that they did with Brian Eno.
Oh,
and it
right.
that really helped move them forward in the zeitgeist, as it were. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I think it was a very simple, straightforward performance, and I enjoyed it.
You know what the problem for me, I think, was? I think the last sketch just sucked the life out of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
It was just so long, and I'm still racking my brain of like what the hell was going on.
Right.
That I didn't enjoy the Talking Heads as much as I thought I would. Because I was psyched to see them again. I haven't seen their performance in ages, and I was like, let's see their first TV performance, and kind of felt subdued a little bit.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird, and maybe just because I've seen him a bit more recently, of like watching a young and restrained David Byrne.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just playing the guitar, standing at the mic. He's not dancing and hopping all over the stage like he's want to do some 40 years later.
I know. And I love that. I'm still riding high off of the 50th anniversary
50th?
concert where he and Robin did my favorite performance from that show. But I really enjoy David Byrne. So yeah. But I understand your point of.
I was definitely having some leftover residual feelings from dying watching that last sketch.
Well, maybe it'll get better with the next sketch.
Wait, is the next sketch when Robert Klein comes on for Attack of the Lobsters? Is that the next sketch? Because that sketch is awesome.
That's one of your favorites. Sadly, no. This sketch has Dan and John and Bill all playing frontiersmen.
Oh, let's not forget Al Franken, sir.
Well, I was getting there. Yeah. When Cicely Tyson makes her way in, because we hear someone in agony on the bed, and she comes in and she lets them know she is the frontier midwife.
Right. This is the name of the sketch, Frontier Midwife. And I will say it is a hilarious opening crawl.
It's very long. Yeah.
It's very long. And Tom Davis does the voiceover. But because it's so long and it goes into such depth about the frontier life and housewives and giving birth during that time, I actually thought the opening crawl was very funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fact that it was Tom Davis was great. And then you walk in, and then I thought the set was amazing too. They had this great frontiersman set,
like cabin,
bunk beds, and it was really done nice. That's about all I got.
Well, so Cicely Tyson comes in and she's barking orders to all of them to get boiling water and to tear these sheets, and she's going to help this baby be born. I did laugh when Bill goes, does anyone know who this woman is?
Well, it's like it's a very weird sketch because you get the crawl. Well, we're going to, I guess you find out why later, but it's then odd, the interaction between her and Dan and Bill and John, because no one understands what's going on.
Right.
And like you said, then Bill has that line with, which was good. I don't know. Okay. So that's all going on. And I'm wondering, I literally had no idea what this sketch was about. Even with the long crawl, which I did think was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Again, once you saw the characters interacting, I'm like, what? Where's this going? What is the point of this?
No, nobody knows.
Until it's revealed that on the bed, Renee, which I did like that they named the person Renee, thought that was kind of a decent trick. Renee is in a lot of pain.
Right.
And then Renee gets up and we see that it's Al Franken. This is where I'm like, hold on. Laura's like, what the fuck is this? And they look to her and I can't remember if it's Dan or Bill says, afraid this just isn't your episode, ma'am. And I'm like, what the fuck? Really? And then Franken comes out of the bed and starts unzipping his pants. And I'm just like, holy shit.
Uh-huh.
That's what your sketch is about.
Uh-huh.
About raping this woman.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's beyond weird. Yeah. And then they even try to give you a topper on then going, next week when Frontier Midwife delivers her own baby. And I was like, really? God, you're just going to double down on that?
Yeah. They went all in.
Yes, they did. I believe this is a Franken and Davis piece. And
it feels very Franken and Davis with
this
the
whole
crawl
episode, I think, is Franken and Davis. But yeah, the crawl is very, very them. But yeah, I literally in the span of like half a second went from having no idea what the hell this sketch was about to being blown away. My mind, I was like, what? Really?
Yeah, to knowing what the sketch was about.
To then knowing what it was about and being, oh my, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, luckily we can move on from there and we go right into Weekend Update. Brought to you by Briskets.
It was a fun joke.
Bite-sized and circumcised. Yeah. I thought that was funny. They pay homage to Sid Vicious, who had just passed away the week prior.
Do you remember when Brian Dole Murray played Sid Vicious?
Yes, I do.
That was good.
Yes, it was.
Sorry, I couldn't sully any other sketches with connection to that last one, so I had to wait till now.
Yeah. A lot of jokes at the desk this week.
I would say a joke I thought was funny that no one in the audience seemed to get. They make a joke about the TV show Hello Larry changing its name to Goodbye Freddy.
Yep.
Which they made kind of like it's, a callback to that Walter Matthau cold open when John played Fred Silverman. Like, I don't know. I thought that was a very funny and smart joke and no one got it.
No, they did not seem to.
Although perhaps it had been much longer since anybody watching the show in 1979 saw that Fred Silverman sketch as opposed to us who saw it just mere weeks. We just saw it mere weeks ago.
Yeah. It really was just a lot of desk jokes. And then.
Yeah, you're right.
Dan comes back as station manager to do Strictly Speaking.
Yeah. Do you like this?
No.
You liked it? No. Okay.
Well, I should say, I thought
you can say no. It's part of the course this episode.
I did not think it was good. I thought Dan's read was very good. And again,
really?
Yeah. You didn't think so?
No, I even made the note. I was like, even Dan is off tonight.
Oh, I just thought he blew through it quickly. I thought he did a really good Dan job of going through it quickly and yeah.
Yeah. You know what I think it is? I think it's only the second time he's done one of these and they don't do it again because obviously the him and Jane work so much better.
Right.
The first time he did it, he was bitching about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Right.
And I think that it's kind of like the Guido Sarducci argument I like to make. It's better when he's arguing something absurd and stupid. And this kind of had some validity to it in my mind. So
yeah.
I didn't find it as funny because I like Dan doing these riffs and stuff when it's something, or he doesn't do it that often, but I like the last one better because it was silly and stupid.
Yeah.
Did he use the term gooks at one point?
Yes, he did.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Yes, he did.
This episode is firing on all cylinders. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's something.
It's kind of amazing. Even for 1979 standards, I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
And it doesn't get better with the next sketch. So we get Nick the Lounge Singer, this time as Nick Rails.
Nick Rails.
He's working the auto train, making the way down to Florida. So we see Dan as an army urologist.
Of course, Dan is then going to talk about his car.
Yeah.
I appreciate at least Jimmy Joe Red Sky is not back. And they get
That's
Dan
true.
in a quote unquote normal role, and he gets to pontificate about his car for 2 minutes. That was funny.
Then we see Cicely, who is a prisoner, being transported by Andy Murphy.
Yeah. Andy's first appearance on the show, I believe.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Starts a long line of appearances by Andy Murphy on the show, which let's wait till a better episode to dig into that.
And then we meet Lorraine and John, who are playing the Sulphurs.
But before that,
yes,
you should say, we don't know she's a prisoner when we get introduced to the couple at first.
Well, yeah.
And I only say it because she's sitting next to Andy Murphy and they're talking, and she's, does some funny wordplay about how she's going back down to Florida and she's going to be there maybe 8 to 10 years this time.
Yep.
And then Andy Murphy reaches up to grab a drink. And when he does, you see they're handcuffed together.
Yeah.
That got no reaction.
No, because I don't think they did a good enough job of hiding it. Like it was there in front of you. And because Bill talks to them for quite a while and you see her hand, like, I feel like
you saw it beforehand. I didn't see it.
I did.
I totally did not see it until he reached for the glass and saw them handcuffed. Cause that's why I was like, why isn't anybody laughing? Like, this is a funny reveal.
Yeah.
Cause I didn't see it. All right.
Yeah.
I did not see it.
Yeah.
You know why I might not have seen it? Cicely Tyson looks to be in genuine misery in this scene.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, perhaps it's because she is that good of an actress, because she is.
Yes.
I mean, she's a great actress, but there just seemed to be a little bit too much authenticity into this performance of a woman being miserable and having zero desire in her life to be on this train car. You saw that too?
Yes, I did. And I honestly, at first I was like, oh, she hates this. And then I chalked it up to, well, she is really good.
Yeah. So that's why I missed the handcuff gag or
Right.
that seeing it beforehand, because I was transfixed on her face and just how visibly unhappy she seemed to be.
Yes. I mean, she's really good.
Put it this way. She's either miserable and she does a fantastic job at the end of the show saying how much fun she had.
Right.
Or she's having fun and she plays so who knows?
Yeah. Either way, she does a brilliant job.
Yes. Sorry. So then we meet Lorraine, who we should say is actually in a Nick the Lounge Singer sketch with a man she's actually supposed to be with.
That's right. Yeah. John, her husband.
Which I thought was weird because they play a Jewish couple.
Yep.
Going down to Florida. And I kept thinking of the Farbers. And like, why is Gilda not playing this character?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we've seen iterations of her and John together. But
yeah. There's not a lot of Gilda in this show, though.
I think she was wise. She's hip to what's going on. And she was in the cold open. She's like, I'm out of here. Fuck you guys. Good luck, everyone.
Well, she has one more thing later. But first, we get another episode of Black Perspective. This time, Cicely is the guest to Garrett. And she comes on to talk about role modeling for Black women. And she turns it around on Garrett, saying that Black men ruined it for Black women.
Yes.
It's very much like the Julian Bond Black Perspective, where it's turned on Garrett.
Yes and no. Again, this is going to be a Cicely Tyson question because you think this would have potential. Like, of course, they're going to do Black Perspective.
Yep.
Let Garrett shine, get Cicely on. Great. But this sketch felt more like a fight than a sketch.
Well,
Like, she plays it so seriously.
yeah,
Where I feel like Julian Bond,
I can see what you're saying.
like, he leaned into the joke a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I like that they did this sketch. Like, I'm glad they did it. It obviously makes sense to do. But again, is it her playing it too straight?
That's a good question.
Did you find it funny, the sketch?
Not really. No. And then Garrett's retort is, listen, bitch.
Right. Which doesn't help. This is, again, like, I think the problem with the writing possibly, with Garrett and this sketch, like, who's writing this?
That's what I was just going to ask you.
Her lines aren't necessarily jokes. They're legitimately like racist tropes that people say about Black men.
Yes.
And because she's so serious, they're not funny. That's why I was like, this came off like a legitimate argument and fight than a sketch. And maybe she just played it too serious. I don't know.
Well,
like Julian Bond seemed to have fun with it.
Right. Julian Bond's also felt like a much quicker joke too. Like she really dives into this before there's any what's supposed to be humor, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas Julian Bond starts right away with a joke and then goes into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. It's not a great sketch. It could have been so much more, I think, for the two of them to do something. But I thought it was interesting that Garrett plugs World at War, and that is our next
funny.
sketch.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was fun.
So he plugs World at War, and we go to Bill as Richard Burton talking about the Walker Brigade.
Meanwhile, I'm like so upset with this episode. I can't even enjoy Bill's Richard Burton impression. I'm like, ugh, God damn it.
The Walker Brigade is a brigade who had to use walkers because they were using a loophole in the Geneva Convention that they couldn't be shot at if they were using walkers.
Yeah.
This was fun. This was silly.
It was. And it was like the production value at times is impressive. Like there's an actual tank in some of those shots.
Right?
Like new footage, like not old newsreel footage, like legit footage. You can tell like guys with walkers.
Yeah.
Next to a tank. So I did like that. And there's some funny pieces when they show them doing what do you call it? Like basic training, and they've got to climb the wall. And the guys, I did laugh. They throw the walkers over the wall and then scale the wall.
Yeah.
And there's another shot where a plane gets shot down and they cut to a guy hanging in a tree in his parachute. He's holding the walker.
He's holding the walker. Yeah.
He's holding the walker.
No, this was funny and silly. And I think you're right. The production value really upped this because for a moment I was like, where's all this footage coming from? And then I realized
it took a couple minutes. It did take a little bit of time. And they do a decent job of trying to explain it at the end.
Yep.
Where they're done with the voiceover and they come back to Bill as Richard Burton in the studio, and he goes trying to explain. He goes, "We're running out of rare footage that still makes World War II interesting to talk about." It was kind of funny, and then he references something else. Is it somebody on dialysis next week or something like that? It was maybe if there was other sketches leading up to this or around it, I'd enjoy it more. But it was fun. I agree, it was fun, and I don't know why. I'm curious who did this, and for no good reason, I keep thinking it like Schiller was involved.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I think just because it was done so well, like the production was done so well, it made me think like Schiller was involved, but I couldn't find anything that said that.
That makes sense though. Well, just when you're enjoying yourself and having fun and you thought, no, they're not going to do more repeats, we get another sketch that is beat for beat identical to a prior episode of this sketch. It's ex-police, and they come in and accuse Jane and Lorraine of being lesbians. And it's really beat for beat the same as the first one, right?
It is. It's literally the same exact dialogue, like almost to a T.
Another homosexuality related death is the exact same line. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's like the catchphrase of the sketch. I get that. But it's amazing how overtly homophobic this sketch is.
Right.
They've leaned into it and made jokes, but I mean, this was just like, that's all this sketch is.
Yeah.
It's like they're just trying to hit everybody this episode.
Good job, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I got nothing, you know. I mean, Lorraine does a quick chain. Nothing, whatever.
No, they throw her out the window.
Hey, do you remember in season 2 when Candace Bergen came back and hosted the Christmas episode with Frank Zappa?
That's
God
right.
damn, that was a good episode.
That was a great episode.
That was really good.
We then get the commercial for Cicely Sings Cicely. So this is Cicely Tyson singing songs from Cicely. My first question, the only thing I wrote down for this was, did she need to be the host for this? I mean, there's nothing. It's just a photo of her.
Okay. So when they start the sketch and they're doing the voiceover, in my mind, I'm thinking this could just be silly enough to work. It's funny. Cicely sings Cicely, of course. But then they don't show her singing. Like all it is like you just said, it's pictures of her, which I guess is, you know, it works for what it is. Of the, you know, these albums, they wouldn't show people singing. It was still photos. But in my mind, I was envisioning her actually singing to camera.
Right.
This is the sketch or the piece I was referencing before, where I feel like they thought they were short.
Right.
And she didn't want to do anything. What can we do? And I believe Don Novello wrote this, I think. It's like, what do we do that's quick and easy? Okay, here's all dialogue, and we just need her to pose and take 2 or 3 still photos, and, you know, we'll make a bit out of it.
Right.
That's how I envision this coming about, because there's just so little going on that it just wants to be more. I don't know.
I don't know either. And so I guess we should move on. We get...
Here's my note is, Just when Gary thought things couldn't get any worse in this episode.
That's right. We get, for the final time, we get Emily Litella talking to camera for an episode of Litella-vision. I'm really glad this did not take off. And we get to see the immoral classic Porky and Bess. So it's Garrett and Cicely singing, Garrett stuttering like Porky Pig, and then the band is all in pig masks as they play. I thought they did a nice job singing, the two of them.
Now she sings. This is what I also found humorous.
That's right.
Is that the last sketch is a sketch about Cicely Tyson singing where she doesn't sing, and now you cut directly to her singing in a sketch.
Yes.
I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know how to better phrase this question, so I'm just going to ask it. Why is Garrett stuttering? I mean, I know why he's doing it, but why?
Because it's Litella-vision.
Right. I understand she's the one who messes things up, but why is Garrett messing things up?
I don't know that he's messing it up, though. He's supposed to be playing it like Porky Pig.
But why is he? I guess that's my question. Like, in the construct of Emily Litella's world, right?
Yes.
Should this not be them doing Porgy and Bess, and she just says it wrong?
Right.
Why does she saying it wrong
make it wrong?
Wrong and have Garrett doing it wrong?
You could have set it up in a different way with someone other than Emily Litella setting this up as, we're doing a production of Porky and Bess in honor of blah, blah, whatever, something like that. So I get your point.
But I get the Emily Litella of it. Like, that's how you get Porky and Bess, is Emily Litella messing it up. I get that.
Yeah.
It was just weird, like Garrett singing. Yeah, like why is he stuttering and she's not? Like, it was just very odd that it was.
Well, because he's Porky Pig and she's Bess. That's why she's not stuttering.
I get it.
Yeah.
But even still.
Oh, does that make it funny to you now? You're like, oh, I get it. What? This is amazing.
I did think the band as pigs was funny and actually a little scary, to be honest.
It was. Those were kind of scary freaky, masks.
Right? Yeah. But it was almost like maybe that's the joke. So you're not playing it. Obviously, you wouldn't be playing the sketch for the studio. You'd only be playing it for TV. But she introduces Porky and Bess, and Garrett and Cicely sing legit.
Yep.
And then you pull out, and the camera reveals the pigs playing, and maybe that's the joke. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, I'm just trying. What the fuck do I know?
I don't know.
It was just weird, and yeah.
I also found the placement of this sketch to be weird, because then we go to our final performance from Talking Heads doing Artists Only.
Yeah, then we end with the band again. Yeah,
and I think we can both agree that the band is stronger than most of these sketches that we've just watched.
Yeah, and I actually like this performance better than the first one. I really like this song. I did.
That's funny.
I don't know this song, but I liked it a lot.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great performance of it. I like how the band was so still and not doing anything. So Davey Wilson was like, great, let's throw an overhead shot of the drums in there for something different to mix it up. And I liked it. I thought it was fun to watch.
Yeah. And I agree. And I noticed it here too. I don't know. I like the show ending on a sketch.
I agree.
Because, it's the live show, Saturday Night Live. I don't like it when it's a pre-tape. I don't like it when it's the band. I like it here, it's like, here's our last swing of the night for you guys. Here's a sketch. Yeah. And then you come back and say goodnight. So it is a little bit weird it's just personal preference. I'm sure some people don't give a shit, but
I don't know. I totally agree with you. And I feel like Ex-Police would have been a great one to end on. No one cared. No one cared about that sketch.
To that point, you have Emily Litella as your next to she came so late.
Right. Yeah.
Shit, we had Emily Litella, Ex-Police,
the
Widettes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it? What's recurring?
Nick the Lounge Singer. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nick the Lounge Singer. Yeah. And Black Perspective. So a lot.
Oh, right.
Actually.
Yeah.
A lot. So there's like a lot of going to the well, which again, the host and what are you able to work with? It's not Buck or LA Ghoul. You just, throw stuff out and try new stuff. So it's, maybe at some point everybody realized we're not going to get a lot, and what can we redo? And maybe that came about late in the game. So like a Coneheads isn't a viable option.
We haven't seen Coneheads in a long time.
That's true. Oh,
Well, that's it. That's our show. We go to good nights. She seems very happy. Everyone seems very happy.
Everybody
with her.
seems good. I don't know why.
Maybe because it was over. They were like, oh, thank God.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, this show was rough. We said it from the start and it didn't get any better.
Yeah. And like I said, I mentioned Cicely Tyson apparently not liking a lot of the material that was given to her. She was adamant to not use cue cards for a while. So she was trying to memorize everything. And then by the end of the week, kind of gave up on that. And so the crew was like, hurrying, do cue cards for her because she didn't want them for so long.
Right.
And then I'm just amazed at what did get on. Jesus.
Well, Brad, what are your best bits?
I got nothing.
Oof. It's one of those episodes.
I've only ever done this once. Hopefully maybe you pull something out. Dick Cavett, right? Dick Cavett 1, I think, is the only other episode.
Yeah. I got something.
Go ahead. Fine.
I thought World at War, and mostly because of the production value and just how silly it was.
Okay.
And the talking heads. I think talking heads in there.
I know. Talking heads are good. It felt like a cop out to just go with just the band.
Yeah. No, I get that. But I thought World at War worked. And I really liked Bill's delivery at the end of that too. It was kind of very Bill, and only Bill could do that.
Yeah, you're a bigger man than I. I think I was just so pissed by the time I finished this episode.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, that is a good sketch. That's right. You could watch that again and it would hold up. Yeah, that's fair.
If you were to watch something that you enjoyed ahead of that, you would have enjoyed that more. The black perspective before
possibly
that.
Even anywhere else in the episode. But you're right. It's a good sketch.
Well, that's it for this week. Luckily, we can move on. And next week we will.
Thank God.
Next week, we're talking deep thoughts about Mr. Mike's Bondo video.
Nice. Get ready for that one.
It's going to be fun. Buckle in.
Buckle in, everybody. An SNL off-week spectacular.
Oh, yeah. Until then, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please take a moment to rate and review the project wherever you find us. You can also drop us a line to let us know what you liked or didn't and what else you might like to hear in the future at nr4ptproject@gmail.com. And lastly, you can find us on social media everywhere at nr4ptproject. Thanks again for listening. Have a pleasant tomorrow.
Do you remember that cold open when Chevy Chase fell down and yelled live from New York at Saturday night?
That one?
That was a good cold open. Sorry, go ahead.